Apologies, technical remarks. My name is Linnea Regnell, and I am a project executive here at the Asia Europe Foundation, and specifically within the education department, where we are organizing this project focused on science and technology diplomacy in Asia and in Europe. At this point, allow me to quickly run through today's agenda, what we have ahead of us for the coming 2 hours. With my little introduction, I would like to give the floor for some welcome remarks in the beginning of our session. We'll hear some welcome remarks from our Deputy Executive Director here at the Asia Europe Foundation, Mr. Zhang Li, as well as from ASEF Governor for Indonesia, Ambassador Samadi Rotodiningrat. And we are also very happy to welcome, to give welcome remarks on behalf of our partners here at BRIN, the chairman of the National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia, or BRIN, as you will hear it referred to quite a few times throughout these sessions, Dr. Laksana Tri Handoko. Thank you so much for being here with us today. After the welcome remarks, we will go into an introductory lecture to set the scene on the topic of science and technology diplomacy, delivered here today by Dr. Martina Talagawa, who is the former foreign minister of Indonesia between 2009 and 2014. And finally, for the second half of today's session, we will welcome distinguished guests from Indonesia to discuss the topic of specifically government action and strategies in Indonesia and its role within the science and technology diplomacy ecosystem with a panel discussion. So we're very excited for that ahead as well. During the panel discussion, as well as during the keynote, feel free to use what we have on the taskbar on your bottom part of your screen, or at top, or depending on where you can use the Q&A function to submit any questions that you have to our speakers. You can also engage with the comments. You can upvote and like those that you would like to be asked specifically during today's sessions. Your opportunity to engage and contribute to the topics today. Without further ado, allow us to get started then with the welcome remarks. As mentioned, first out, we have the welcome remarks on behalf of the Asia Europe Foundation. Today we have Deputy Executive Director, Mr. Zhang Li, delivering these remarks. Mr. Zhang, the floor is yours.
Okay. Ambassador Samadi, Chairman Dr. Laksana Handoko, distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and attendees from across Asia and Europe. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. On behalf of the Asia Europe Foundation, it is my great pleasure to welcome you all to our workshop series, Navigating Indonesia's Science and Technology Diplomacy Ecosystem, organized in partnership with the National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia and with the support of EuroAccess. Today's workshop marks the start of the third country-focused workshop series organized as part of the Asian Europe Science and Technology Diplomacy Initiative for Young Leaders, in which we explore the complex and exciting science and technology diplomacy ecosystem of selected countries in Asia. This workshop will focus on Indonesia, and our goal is to bring together diverse voices from government, academia, business, and the diplomatic community to explore Indonesia's dynamic and evolving role in science and technology diplomacy. Indonesia stands at a pivotal point as the world's fourth most populous country and the largest economy in Southeast Asia. Indonesia is rapidly emerging as a key player in science and technology diplomacy. With its vast national resources, vibrant innovation ecosystem, and strategic geopolitical position, Indonesia's investments in science, technology, and innovation are not only shaping its own future, but also contributing to regional and global progress. With Indonesia's integration of science and technology into its foreign policy in areas such as climate change, public health, and digital transformation, they are recognizing the growing critical role science plays in international cooperation. Today's workshop is an opportunity to deepen our understanding of these developments, share experiences, and identify new avenues for collaboration. We are also pleased to be working with BRIN and to highlight Indonesia as they prepare to host the World Science Forum 2026 in Jakarta, a milestone that underscores the country's commitment to advancing global science diplomacy. I would like to extend our sincere gratitude to our partners, including the National Research and Innovation Agency, whose support and expertise have been invaluable in shaping this series. I encourage all participants to actively engage during the coming 3 weeks, ask questions, share your perspectives, and connect with one another. Together, let us build bridges between Asia and Europe and foster the cross-sector partnerships that drive innovation and progress. Thank you for joining us today. I look forward to a stimulating and productive discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zhang, for those welcome remarks and for opening the session here with those words. Thank you very much. Second, allow me to then hand over the floor to our ASEF Governor for Indonesia, Ambassador Somadi Brotodiningrat, for his welcome remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Ambassador, are you with us? Yeah. Ambassador, we seem to have lost your audio and video. Okay. Before we hand over the floor then to the ambassador for the welcome remarks, as we sort out the technical points on that side, perhaps we allow for a little bit of a change in the order here and move over to the welcome remarks from BRIN South at this point, and we'll come back to the ambassador afterwards as well. So perhaps then, as I also saw that he has now joined us today in this session, allow me to hand over the floor to the chairman of BRIN, of the National Research and Innovation Agency in Indonesia, Dr. Laksana Handoko, for his welcome remarks. Are you with us? Can we test that your audio and everything is okay? I can see you here, at least on the screen.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, we can hear you as well. With that, thank you so much for being here. I'll hand over the floor to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reknel. So the Honorable Mr. Zhang Lei, the Deputy Executive Director of ASEF, also the Excellencies, the Ambassador, Mr. Somadi Brotodiningrat, the ASEF Governor for Indonesia, and also the Honorable Dr. Marty Natalegawa, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, 2009-2014, yeah, as the keynote speakers, and also distinguished speakers, panelists, ladies and gentlemen. So good afternoon for all of you from Jakarta. So on behalf of the National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia, BRIN, I would like to warmly welcome all participants to this important webinar on country-focused workshop series, Navigating Indonesia's Science and Technology Diplomacy Ecosystem. This webinar marks the premier activity hosted by Indonesia in collaboration with Asia Europe Foundation, ASEF, as we prepare the holding of World Science Forum in 2026 in Jakarta. So, ladies and gentlemen, in today's increasingly complex and interconnected world, science diplomacy is no longer a luxury, it is a necessity. So, global challenges such as climate change, pandemics, digital transformation, and also geopolitical instability demand collective responses that transcend national borders. So for the past 4 decades, I've been serving my country as a scientist. I've worked with renowned scientists from many countries. So today, some of my colleagues view that science is not in line with diplomacy, that both are working in different directions. So through this discussion onwards, Indonesia is committed to showcase how science and diplomacy could walk hand in hand towards the future. It is essential to remind ourselves that science diplomacy stands at the intersection of science, policy, and also international relations. In this context, Indonesia is strongly committed to advancing science diplomacy as an integral part of its global engagement. And since our inception in 2021, BRIN has consolidated over 70 former government agencies, and including also one ministry, into a single national platform for research and innovation. So this integration enables us to play a more strategic scientific collaboration with important counterparts at international arena. So within the region of Southeast Asia, actually ASEAN has been our cornerstone in promoting research and innovation, collaboration among our 10 member states and also with our dialogue partners. So BRIN had the honor of hosting the 87th ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, COSTI, and also the 21st ASEAN Ministerial Meeting on Science, Technology and Innovation in Jakarta 2 weeks ago. One of the major outcomes was the launch of ASEAN Plan of Action on Science, Technology and Innovation, APASTI 2025-2029, which serves as a roadmap for strengthening STI collaboration across Southeast Asia in the years ahead. So this is a clear example how science diplomacy in action, building bridges between nations through scientific and research breakthroughs. So at the regional and multilateral fora, BRIN actively engages in platforms such as APEC, Policy Partnership on Science, Technology and Innovation, CSTD, Commission on Science, Technology and Development, UNESCO, IAEA, BRICS, G20, and also many more. So through these platforms, Indonesia contributes to global dialogues on emerging technologies, nuclear energy, biodiversity, and also sustainable development. So our science diplomacy efforts are also closely aligned with Indonesia's national vision, ASEFSciTech, we call it ASEFSciTech, which outline 8 development priorities under the current President Prabowo's administration. So this include human development on science, technology, education, youth, and also women empowerment, economic transformation, environmental sustainability, and also global competitiveness. So to support this vision, BRIN has developed several global platforms and programs that are open to international partners. These include research mobility schemes, joint research initiatives, research infrastructure, and also open research platform. We welcome collaboration across disciplines and also borders. So, ladies and gentlemen, so in late 2024 in Budapest, Indonesia was appointed as the host country of the next World Science Forum in 2026. We understand that World Science Forum is a global platform that brings together scientists, policymakers, civil society, and also private sector to deliberate on the future of science and society. So we look forward to having ASEF and also other international organizations play an active role in World Science Forum 2026. So ladies and gentlemen, Science diplomacy thrives on mutual trust, openness, and also shared purpose. It is built not only on scientific excellency, but also on respect for diverse perspectives and cultural understanding. So in chairing the World Science Forum, Indonesia will therefore ensure that science benefits all, regardless of geography, economy, or politics. As we begin today's discussion, I would like to reaffirm that BRIN stands ready to strengthen the global science diplomacy ecosystem that is inclusive, collaborative, and also sustainable. Let us continue working together to ensure that science remains a force for peace and prosperity for all. So thank you very much, and I wish you a productive and inspiring discussion. So thank you.
Very much, Mr. Chairman, for those remarks and for bridging here the gap, I think, between World Science Forum 2024 and the World Science Forum 2026. We very much look forward to the discussions to come in this workshop series as we also build for the sessions for 2026. I've heard many great things in planning, and we look forward to seeing it in action as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I now see that we have Ambassador Somali with us, so allow me to go back perhaps a bit in our schedule here and welcome Ambassador Somali Diningrat to deliver his welcome remarks. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Lynn. Well, distinguished Deputy Executive Director of ASEF, Mr. Jalde, distinguished Chairman of National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia, Dr. Laksana Triandoko, and Your Excellency, former Foreign Minister of Indonesia, Dr. Marty Natalegawa. Very good afternoon to all of you. Esteemed participants and panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I take it as a privilege and pleasure to join you today for the opening of the first session of the country's focused workshop series of navigating science and technology diplomacy ecosystem in Indonesia. Deputy Executive Director Zhang and I have just returned from the 46th meeting of ASEF Board of Directors in Krakow, Poland. One of the key issues discussed was how to strengthen Asia-Europe collaborations, particularly through education, science, and technology. It is heartening to see that vision taking root here in Indonesia through this workshop series. Today's session, the first in a series of 3, focuses on the critical issue of government strategies and actions in building and sustaining Indonesia's science and technology diplomacy ecosystem. The discussion is timely and necessary in a world shaped by rapid digital transformations, climate exchange challenges, and shifting geographical dynamics. Science and technology diplomacy served not only as a tool of engagement, but also a foundation for building trust, advancing shared knowledge, and promoting inclusive and sustainable development. Indonesia, through its national strategies and with the leadership of BRIN, continues to strengthen its global presence in science, technology, and innovation. Whether through research and development cooperations, joint research initiatives, or multilateral partnership, we are demonstrating on how diplomacy and innovation policy can reinforce one another. This workshop series provides an important opportunity to reflect on our achievements and also to identify areas that require deeper coordination, improved policy integrations, and stronger cross-sector collaborations. We appreciate ASEF's continued support in placing a spotlight on Indonesia. These sessions offer a meaningful space not only to communicate our national aspirations, but also to learn from the diverse practices and experiences across Asia and Europe. They help nurture new partnerships, empower next generations of science diplomacy leaders, and strengthen the entire ecosystem from government to academia to industry. In closing, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to ASEF, BRIN, and our distinguished speakers and all participants for contributing to this timely and important dialogue. May today's exchange bring fresh insight, foster long-term collaborations, and reinforce our shared commitment to science and technology diplomacy as driver for peace, prosperity, and development across the regions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for those words and for also sharing a bit about how we're planning ahead in terms of science and technology in the education part of the Asia Europe Foundation here. We're very excited, as you mentioned, to be highlighting Indonesia during this workshop series, and we thank you for your kind words in regards to this as well. Thank you for being here today and for your welcome remarks. At this point, I would like to move on to our content part, let's say, of this workshop series and this first session. And it is my pleasure and honor here to welcome for the introductory lecture, Dr. Marty Natalegawa, who is the former foreign minister who served as Indonesia's foreign minister between 2009 and 2014. Allow me to share a bit about his extensive experience before I hand over the floor to him for his presentation. The full bio you can read on our website, but allow me to do some of the shorter ones here to give you an idea of the extensive experience he brings. So beyond serving as the foreign minister for Indonesia during this time, he has also held a number of different roles as permanent representative to both the United Nations, as well as an ambassador to the United Kingdom and Ireland. As of late, he is also the author of Does ASEAN Matter? A View from Within. And beyond this, has also co-authored works on geopolitics and Indonesia's economy in general. He is a member of the UN Secretary General's High-Level Advisory Board on Mediation, and has also served at other key UN bodies during his time. Within ASEAN, he's played a pivotal role in advancing the ASEAN community at large, initiating the East Asia Summit, and advocating for peace, peaceful dispute resolution and regional cooperation. Currently, he chairs the Asia-Pacific Leaders Network for Nuclear and Non-Proliferation, and is a distinguished fellow at the Asia Society Policy Institute as well. Beyond this, it's very honorable for us to have us here today. He's been recognized also as with the Indonesia's Sata Yala Vidya Karya and Bintang Mahaputra Adiparamita medals. Excuse me for any pronunciations there. And has also been made the honorary Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael's and St. George by the Queen Elizabeth II. With extensive also academic backgrounds, both with PhDs from the Australian National University as well as from the University of Cambridge. We are very excited and honored to have him here today to deliver a keynote on the nexus between science and diplomacy and in the context of a fragmented world. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Natalegawa. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for such a generous introduction. I'm fortunate in a way, speaking after all the previous remarks and statements, especially one by the head of BRIN, who had really focused on Indonesia's position and policies in this domain. For what I'm about to present is certainly not Indonesia focused, and most definitely it is a view only representing my own personal self and not associated with any other entities with whom I am currently engaged. If I may, and with your kind permission, I'd like to speak a little bit on the nexus between science and diplomacy in what is many would argue today, wouldn't dispute today in our current fragmented world. Let me see, how do I get this to the next page? I think,
Yes.
Yes, I haven't quite.
Yes, you should be able to, I see your mouse currently, you should be able to click there on the screen and it should change to the next slide.
Yes. Yes.
There we go.
Yes. I wanted to begin by identifying some key dynamics which I think is of some relevance when we speak of the nexus between diplomacy and science. One dynamic that I think well worth underscoring, especially coming from someone who is quite familiar more of the international domain, is the reality that nowadays we live in a world where the internal dynamic within a country and the external dynamics are very much converged. They have become increasingly, the distinctions have become increasingly fragile one. Another dynamic I wanted to highlight or emphasize is the reality that ours is an era where marked by rapid change, arguably transformative in nature, but not only rapid and transformative, but they are also almost constant and such that we can use the term a state of permanent change. Clearly, a lot of the drivers for this change emanate from changes in technology, a technology-driven change. Aside from that, another key feature that I wanted to emphasize is the reality that ours is an era where issues converge. It's no longer possible nowadays to delineate between political security issues on the one hand, economic issue on the other, socio-cultural and technology as well, but they are all have impact on one another because they truly are merging and converging as well. Therefore, in my view, given the reality of such these dynamics, the dynamics of convergence between internal setting and external setting, the reality of convergence between issues, and the reality as well of a state of a transformative and almost permanent change, these dynamics needs to be managed. They can become sources that are of positive impact, or on the other hand, they could also become exposes risk of fragmentation. When we speak, certainly when I think about the nexus between science and diplomacy, at the risk of oversimplification, I try to identify two facets to it. The first one is essentially diplomacy for science, namely how diplomacy may assist or may facilitate or enable even international scientific cooperation and collaboration. And this may obviously be bilateral in nature, it can be regional, and it can be global as well. Essentially, it is how diplomacy and foreign policy help enable international scientific cooperation. Essentially, the type that we have been informed just now as well, the various important programs and initiatives that Indonesia is undertaking in the region and beyond. The other facet is how science impact on the conduct of diplomacy and foreign policy. And this is, to be frank, myself personally, I'm really fascinated by this second facet, and not simply the first one, how diplomacy can facilitate scientific collaboration, but the other dimension, how science impact on the conduct of diplomacy and foreign policy. Like many things, the manifestation can be positive, and it can also be a challenging or a negative one even. In terms of positive impact of science on the conduct of diplomacy and foreign policy, some elements or some illustrations. One, for instance, the positive role of scientific evidence as objective input in diplomacy, in foreign policy making. A classic case in recent years would be how all of us have become better informed through science of the impact of climate change, and how those learned advice and inputs have enabled to facilitate informed discussions between countries in pursuing their common objectives and concern. In many cases as well, collaboration on scientific endeavors become extremely important as part of trust building in identifying issues of common interest and concern. Perhaps a way of building comfort level, certainly between countries that hitherto had not necessarily enjoyed close relations. Hence, it's not without significance when we speak of developments often in conflict situations, maritime disputes area, for instance, in our region. Often the suggestion is being made that the countries concerned focus on cooperation in scientific endeavor, for instance, to be able to build trust and develop a habit of cooperation. Less positive examples are also, I'm afraid, quite a common one as well. Here is where essentially we risk seeing the weaponization of the global common. By global common, I mean essentially endeavor between nation states that are, in theory, should be of common interest and common concern, largely driven by realities identified through science. And yet, these domains, these areas have become weaponized by considerations that are more political and geopolitical and security in nature. So when we speak of the nexus between science and diplomacy, I feel it quite useful to differentiate between those two facets, how diplomacy may help or enable international scientific cooperation, and the other side, how science impacts the conduct of diplomacy and foreign policy. One of the key concerns that I feel we are at today through science diplomacy would be how we can create safe spaces, how we can provide like a buffer to global common so that we can ensure that in these domains, in these areas, countries can project a more cooperative type of mindset rather than allowing this domain to become weaponized. And if we were to look back on decades past, it is possible to identify some international agreements initially driven by scientific advances, but as a result of those international agreements, safe spaces were created to ensure that the scientific advances does not result in negative geopolitical repercussions. And many of these agreements were achieved during the height I would say, during the height of the Cold War. So it is not quite the case that as if when geopolitical tensions are high, it is impossible for countries to find common agreements. But there are some examples that illustrate otherwise. And let me just go through some examples, if I may. The Outer Space Treaty of 1967, essentially, again, at the risk of oversimplification, it prohibits the use of outer space for military purposes. This treaty was driven or spurred by the development, technological development behind intercontinental ballistic missile technology, the development of artificial satellite. So those new technologies, drivers, could have led to countries weaponizing and arming the outer space, and yet leaders then had the wisdom to draw a line to ensure that the outer space be prohibited for the use of military purposes. The Antarctic Treaty in 1959, again, demilitarizing that continent and indefinitely freezing territorial claims and providing for scientific freedom. To me, those two treaties, Outer Space Treaty, Antarctic Treaty, represent an ideal synergy between science-driven change or transformation, and coupled with the necessary cooperative mindset to be able to ensure diplomacy and science go hand in hand. Aside from those, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea of 1982, which obviously Indonesia places a great deal of importance on, beyond our own the segments or that are within national jurisdiction. When we speak of the high seas, which is beyond the national jurisdiction, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea sets the rule of how states should conduct themselves in the high seas. And we have then a series of agreements to do with disarmament-related issues, hard political security issues that were again reflective of an era when scientific progress and science as drivers was coupled with a sufficient degree of political wisdom and a sense of common interest, that we have been able to achieve such landmark agreement, such as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, whose importance continues to this day, Biological Weapons Convention, Chemical Weapons Convention. So to me, and there are other examples, obviously, but to me, it seems that these are illustrations of the positive that could be achieved if the nexus between science and diplomacy is properly managed. Looking ahead, clearly, as scientific endeavor gather pace and transformation has become almost a permanent feature of our global setting today, we need to create the necessary governance, the necessary architecture to ensure that these new spaces, these new domains are similarly protected from security, the injection of security dynamics. And some of them are so obvious that it bears hardly any emphasis. The development of the digital economy as a transformative feature and a positive feature of our world today, unfortunately, is also coupled with increasing awareness of the threat of cybersecurity and the type of the type of arrangements that we need to ensure that's created to protect the common spaces. Artificial intelligence, AI, the full impact on diplomacy is yet to be fully understood in terms of the positive potential, as well as the potential ramifications. Ballistic missile weapon technology, so-called hypersonic technology, apart from its obvious destructive capacity, the nature of this challenge is such it has really reduced the decision-making time for policymakers in meeting this kind of threat, because its singular feature is speed, and therefore less time for more considered action and reaction when threats emanate. Global health issues, an issue which we would think is singularly clear that this is an area that requires international cooperation. But as we saw in the recent pandemic, even in this area, in dealing with global pandemic then prevailing, it was quite difficult to avoid the projection of geopolitical tensions onto that space. In other words, for policymakers, apart from diplomacy for science, when we speak about science for diplomacy, etc., and the nexus, we have ahead of us a number of new global common issues which requires the input from the scientific community to ensure that all of us, the policymakers, policy leaders, have the requisite advice and input to be able to build the infrastructure and architecture that would be win-win and cooperative. To me, the basic question is we need to first and foremost recognize that there is a nexus, there is a convergence between science and diplomacy. We are not trying to be overly ambitious in trying to make that connection, at the very least in the two facets that I mentioned. But how that nexus, that convergence is materialized, whether it becomes a force for good or a force that is less conducive, that will depend on policymakers and arguably even by the scientific community. How we can promote positive convergence, avoiding fragmentation, what conditions conducive are needed for science, and the idea of countries working closely hand in hand on global common issue can thrive together. Those are what I had wanted to share this afternoon, if I'm allowed, and I'm truly grateful for your patience and for listening to my remarks. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Natalegawa, for that presentation and the introduction. I think it really highlights, as you say, both the pros and the cons, let's say, the positive and perhaps a little bit more negative sides of engaging in science diplomacy, and how mindful we need to be in the way that we do so. So I thank you very much for that. I believe at this point we have a little bit of time for some questions and answers. So as we've seen in the Q&A function, and also we indicated in the chat, if you as the audience have any questions to Dr. Natalegawa, please take the time to do so now. I'll invite Dr. Jet to help facilitate this as well at this point. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Linia. I think I recognize Bapak. First of all, thank you very much, Bapak. as always, very enlightening, even
Thank
for
you.
us working in the foreign ministry and who had the fortune to serve under His Excellency's leadership under his ministry from 2009 to 2014. Even for us, we still learn something new from Dr. Nata Lagawa's presentation. I
Thank you.
recognize, Bapak, there is a question made in the question and answer box, and I may read that question to you, Bapak.
Yeah.
It's from Andika Prasetyo. Thank you for emphasizing the importance of safe spaces, but how we can really define the word safe science. One country may argue it is safe science for them, while others may think differently. Thank you.
Yes. Well, that is truly the crux of the issue that I try to invite our listeners at the end. What are the conditions conducive needed to be able to enable nation states, countries to ensure that scientific endeavor becomes a driver that unites and brings country together? Because left to its own devices, often case scientific domain, especially of transformative type that can have a dual use capacity in the domain of security, including defense, can become very readily militarized. But if you were to look at all the examples that I mentioned before, chemical weapons convention, biological weapons convention, even the NPT, the nuclear weapons convention, that's a situation where leaders, countries recognize that while the science could enable them to develop certain national capacities and firepower, but they all agree to exercise restraint to allow for a sense of common security, common cooperative partnership to take root. But this is something, to me, is a matter of building trust, building comfort level, more communication. But it is first and foremost, I think, between the scientific community, as you have been doing, obviously, a great deal of cooperation, a great deal of conversation, and then coupled with within the scientific community, also at the leadership level, all the stakeholders. It must be a whole of society, not just whole of government, a whole of society approach. But we need to find what those conditions conducive are, because then once we get it, it can be multiplied and it can be empowered to be of a magnificent force. Yeah.
Thank you, Bapak. In short, perhaps it takes everyone, right, Bapak?
Yeah,
From the
yes.
scientific community to the policymakers to the diplomats. So it's not just the diplomats' task, but also everyone's included. Thank you. And there's two more questions, Bapak, that our participants have typed in the chat box. First is from our fellow director, I believe, Dr. Khairul Rizal, Bapak. Is addressing convergence issue, how old science diplomacy differs from new science diplomacy to deal with it.
That's quite thought-provoking. First of all, I think one set of ideas that I was trying to suggest in my brief remarks, pre-presentation, is the notion of convergence between issues. I truly feel that if we Indonesia is to advance as a nation, it's not enough to simply deep dive in a manner of a silo our expertise in respective areas of interest, but to be able to find how one domain or one issues affect the other, because whether in terms of opportunities or challenges, they tend to be mutually affecting one another, and therefore we must have a cohesive approach. old science diplomacy differs from new science diplomacy? I'm not sufficiently informed and sufficiently sensitive to the distinction between the old and new, because I'm really seeing my delineation is really between that diplomacy for science, which is the happier one, in the sense how through diplomacy, through international cooperation, we can facilitate international cooperation on scientific endeavor of the type that you are all doing, which is a fantastic pursuit, and the other one is science for diplomacy, the impact of science on diplomacy, but I really haven't thought about what makes science diplomacy of the older character from the newer character. But this is, I think, a conversation I need to have continued with Dr. Khairul Rizal. But thank you for flagging it. I'll inform myself about the distinction. Yeah.
Thank you, Bapak. I
Yeah.
think Dr. Rizal would be very honored to contact Bapak afterwards. He's a big
Yes.
fan of yours, right, Dr.
Okay.
Rizal? And wow, Bapak, now they have more and more questions.
Yeah,
Now
it's
we
okay.
are looking at 6. And Miss Linia, I am inclined to facilitate these participants because I know it's very difficult to meet Dr. Natalegawa in person, and I'm sure they are all excited to raise questions. Another one from Srishti Gul. How the scientific community will aware world leaders about extraction of coals and now very much focus on rare earth minerals. As
Absolutely.
we all say, electric vehicles is eco-friendly, but are they? The nickel, cobalt, all these are rare earth minerals. How it can be really sustainable, Baba?
Yes, in that succinct question that has been posed, there are so many facets to it, so many facets that you can deep dive and elaborate the different strands. The first strand that I can immediately, when the word rare earth mineral is mentioned nowadays, compared to even beyond the scientific community, beyond people who are really into it, when someone mentions rare earth minerals, they say, "Oh, so what? What's the point? What the point are you making?" But now everyone is alerted to the fact that this is such a geopolitically significant resource of contest and of concern by many economists, that it has become a domain or a field, an issue of geopolitical contestation, of the projection of geopolitical competition, the going back and forth, for instance, between two major economy, China and United States, currently on the tariffs, apart from traditional issue of the level of tariffs to be imposed, also include conversation on the issue of security of supply, as seen from one side or the other. So yes, I should have added the issue of rare earth minerals among the last list that I had on my screen about issues to manage, access to secure. On the other hand, about the electric vehicles and how we can ensure that sustainable utilization of all these resources. This must be a key issue, because we need to ensure growth that are not only equitable, that can be enjoyed by people at large in an inclusive way, but also sustainable as well. Jones, and our colleague who had asked the question, in my conversation in other sectors, in other fields, I've always been enamored, been attracted to the idea of having like a council of future generation council. So essentially, these are next generation individuals who should have a say on any policy making that's being made today, whether it be today to do with sustainable mining practices or management of the economy, whose impact will be felt not in the next 5, 10, 15 years, but in their lifetime. So I think this is something that I feel a topic that is well deserving of a proper deep dive, how we can, not necessarily solve one problem through the development of so-called electric vehicles, but at the same time, the sources of the manufacturing of those vehicles are not environmentally sustainable. And then we have a question here from.
Yes, there are many, Bapak, but perhaps
go
if
ahead.
we could choose one more, right, Miss Linia? Is it possible for two more, Bapak, or one more?
Yeah, I'm fine. One or two is fine. Yes.
All right, Bapak. One from Yuldin Bahriansyah. I think recently soft power diplomacy is hardly challenged by hard power, and that non-bloc is against allied strategy. How far those strategies help Indonesia survive or even grow in current situation?
Yes. Well, I think the distinction between soft power and so-called hard power is a little bit overemphasized, because a country in the conduct of its relations with other countries would employ both so-called hard power and soft power. But in the current on the current issue that we are discussing, I think clearly the soft power approach is one that we would like to see, because our mindset is more science as a cooperative endeavor, as a field that unites nations rather than divide. And in the case of Indonesia, for instance, the securing our security has always been through multifaceted approach. It's never been single approach of deployment of military assets, for instance. But our diplomacy, which can be argued to be a soft power, is a force multiplier. It's a force multiplier in the absence, or as we develop our own military hard power capacity. We need to have the soft power. We need to have diplomacy to provide the buffer, at the very least, to allow time for us to consolidate within. But certainly in the field of science, is far more appropriate, I think, for us, certainly in this part of the world, to project a more soft power, win-win type of approach. The second bit he speak about was about the non-block, the non-line, I guess, the non-line thing. Yeah. Again, it's great that we have, I hope the science diplomacy, the diplomacy for science can also be projected in amongst the so-called global South countries, because increasingly we are seeing scientific capacities becoming more diffused. It's no longer centered around so-called traditional capitals or centers for scientific excellence. But now you have countries such as India, obviously Indonesia as well, working hard through BRIN, and in our own region, Southeast Asia, have been quite at the forefront in many scientific endeavor. So now we have more capacities to develop South-South science diplomacy, because we have the wherewithal, we have the capacity to do just that. Yeah.
Thank you, Bapak.
Yeah.
Is there still time for one more question?
Yeah, I'm fine with one more. It's okay.
Right. Thank you, Pak. So perhaps one more that is deeply connected to His Excellency's presentation just now is regarding if you could recommend one key policy change or a new initiative to significantly enhance Indonesia's science and technology diplomacy, what would it be and why?
Oh, this is very tricky, because was it just one just now?
Yes, apparently the name of the questioner is Soklip Coral. Perhaps
Okay, no.
Europe. Yes.
Well, one is so singular, but I would, if I'm allowed to,
Right.
one is essentially first and foremost must be internal consolidation, because everything begins from home, and having all Indonesia's scientific community stakeholders all being on the same page, it would be critically important. And obviously here, BRIN plays an extremely important role in creating that sense of cohesion and intra-country coordination. That must be a foremost effort. And secondly, obviously, we need to develop beyond our shores, at least within the ASEAN Southeast Asia region. Again, a sense of cohesion, a sense. That's why when I listened to the head of BRIN just now, referring to the plan of action that the ASEAN has developed, that is spot on. I think that's how we should be. So we can synergize national level efforts with regional level and interregional, as represented such as by ASEF, Asia Europe Foundation, and the global level as well. So all cylinders firing all at the same time. But I'm grateful for the questions that have been posed, and I hope my presentation was not meant to provide answers. To be frank, because I think amongst the scientific community, any scientific endeavor must begin with the right questions. And my hope was my 5-page or 6-page slides will provoke more questions of the type that had been posed than necessarily provide answers. Then if it has, then I think I have served my purpose for this afternoon. Thank you.
I think you had not just meet the purpose, Bapak, but you has enlightened and educate us to the extent that we understand more about science diplomacy. And again, there are many highlights that we could take as key takeaways from Dr. Natalegawa's lecture this afternoon. But if I may refer to the very term that he just coined right now, is about our diplomacy is a force multiplier, including the science diplomacy, and that science is a cooperative endeavor. And then science unites rather than divides. And His Excellency also stressed upon the importance of possible establishment of a council consisting of future leaders. So making sure the participation of younger generations and that they are willing to take part in addressing important issues from AI to climate change and all relevant issues. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you.
To host this.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And have a good sessions ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Natalegawa, for that, and thank you, Dr. Jet, for facilitating the Q&A here following his presentation. I'm very honored to have had the former minister here with us today and for sharing those insights with us all. I know that we had more questions to the former minister in the chat, so I'm being mindful of your time, Dr. Natalegawa, but if you want to stick around to also listen to part of the panel discussion, you can also, if you have the time and wish to, of course, engage with the questions and write any answers that you have in the chat there as well. So thank you very much again for your time and for your participation. At this stage, yes, Dr. Jet, please stay with me here as I will move ahead to our second part of this hour. Thank you also for being patient and for our panelists to join us for this session. But then let's move ahead to the panel discussion itself. Allow me then, as Dr. Jet is already here on the screen, to first give a proper introduction to you, as well as then to our panelists that are joining us here today. So chairing our panel discussion and also following now the Q&A, we have Dr. Jet, who is with us and is the Director for Strengthening Partnership on Infrastructure and Infrastructure Research and Innovation at BRIN. Dr. Jet graduated as a Doctor of Philosophy from the University of Sydney and the Law Faculty in 2019. He has obtained also a master's degree from the same university, focusing here on international law back in 2006. Someone with a law background itself, I'm very interested in hearing from your perspectives here during this discussion. He is himself a career diplomat with more than 2 decades of service in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, where he's had a number of different roles over the years. Prior to his current assignment, he has also been tasked as the Minister Counselor in the Indonesian Embassy in Seoul from October 2020 to July 2024. And during his 2nd decade of his career at the Foreign Ministry, he was tasked as a Deputy Director on Economic, Trade and Investment and Social Cultural Treaties, where in his 1st decade, he more focused on multilateral affairs. And beyond also, of course, this extensive background and experience, he also is a dedicated promoter of economic and cultural diplomacy through specifically batik and traditional textiles and fashion. And I can see also that you have a very nice shirt here today presenting as well. So thank you for being here and for facilitating this panel. Allow me at this stage then to introduce our panelists as well who are joining us here today. I would first like to take the opportunity to introduce Madam Deputy Chairman for Research and Innovation Policy at BRIN, Dr. Boida Soti Onto Virjo, who is here with us today. She also chairs the ASEAN Committee on Science, Technology and Innovation, so COSTI, of Indonesia, where she leads significant initiatives, including the collaboration with ASEAN Korea, ASEAN US, as well as ASEAN India, and advises here on the roadmap on blue economy. Dr. Onto Virjo has an impressive and extensive educational background in management and engineering, and additionally has also been recognized as with the best of research proposals at the 4th Management Research Center Doctoral Journey in Management in 2009. She holds an MBA in Finance from the Graduate School of Business Administration at Northeastern University in Boston, Massachusetts, completed in 1999, and as well as a bachelor's degree in Civil Engineering from the Faculty of Civil Engineering and Planning at Institute Technology Bandung, and graduated in 1992. Thank you very much, Madam Deputy, for being here with us today. Our second panelist joining us today is Dr. Duri Hidayat, who is the Director at the Directorate for Political Law and Defense Security Policy at BRIN. Dr. Hidayat obtained a master's degree in applied physics from Delft Institute of Technology in the Netherlands, and has a Master of Science and Technology Policy from the Science Policy Research Unit at Sussex University. He completed then also his doctoral education in the field of public administration from the University of Indonesia. And since 1995, he has been the researcher at the Research Center for Science and Technology Development of the Indonesian Institute of Sciences in the field of science and technology. So has very much an experience here specifically focusing on science technology, which also includes heading the Research Center for Science and Technology Development between 2019 and 2021, where he served as head of Research Center as well for the Indonesian Institute of Sciences. Beyond this, since the establishment of BRIN, as we heard earlier as well, in 2021, until also December 2024, he served as the Director for Research, Technology, Innovation, and Formulation before he took on his current role at BRIN. Thank you very much, Dr. Hidayat, for being here with us today. And last but not least, joining us as well from the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology of Indonesia is Mr. Dedi Saputra, who is a senior policy analyst at the ministry. He holds a master's degree in public policy from Flinders University in Australia, and he began his professional career as a researcher in science and technology policy at the Indonesian Institute of Sciences. So sharing here a bit of background at the same institute as Dr. Hidayat. And over the years, he has held strategic policy and leadership roles at different ministries in Indonesia, and then also at BRIN, having been actively engaged in the development and management of science and technology parks, including also participation in international training and internship programs in Japan, the Netherlands, New Zealand, and the UK. So bringing here a more global perspective as well on science and technology. His work currently then focuses on strengthening specifically Indonesia's science, technology, and innovation ecosystem, specifically through evidence-based policy and cross-sectoral collaboration. So we're grateful for having you here today, Mrs. Sasupota. And with your cross-sectoral collaboration experience, perhaps it's great to be able to kick off today's session focusing on government. And we're excited to hear what everyone has to bring in terms of this perspective as we also build for the coming sessions on the intersection of also research, academic institutions, and the business sector to come. But with those introductions, allow me to take a step back and give over the floor again to Dr. Jet to facilitate today's panel discussion. Thank you again to all of our panelists for being here with us today. The floor is yours. I look forward to the discussions.
Thank you, Ms. Linnea. That's a very comprehensive introduction to each speaker, and I am deeply humbled and utterly honored to chair this illustrious panel of discussion. Of course, they are all my seniors, not just colleagues, but very senior and seasoned scientists, starting from Dr. Budi Astuti, whom I call Ibu Deputi Asti, and then Dr. Dudi, as well as Pak Dedi Saputra from the Ministry of Higher Education, Science, and Technology. Now, I am a firm believer, where would gentlemen be without women? So ladies first, gentlemen after. So let me, without further ado, handing over this particular presentation to Ibu Deputi Asti. The floor is yours, Ibu Deputi. You'll be the first to deliver the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Joe, the moderators. Always have fruitful discussions with you. Thank you very much. In the beginning, we have introductions, keynote speech from the chairman, also ambassador, and then with the Bapak Marty. It's very amazing, and as an introduction to fulfill our memory, what is exactly what we want to mentions about the diplomacy, science diplomacy. So my presentation is right now, it's trying to do like we want to make this event as the roadmap to the World Science Forums in the 2026. So allow me to present what is exactly what we want to achieve in the 2026 World Science Forum itself. It is possible, Dr. Joe, that I share the presentations. Is it that somebody can help me to present? Ibu Dara, or I have already sent my presentations to Ibu Dara. Is it possible?
So let me seek the assistance, Ibu.
Okay. Meanwhile, I will talk a little bit about what is exactly to achieve in the World Science Forum 2026. The event is inspired actually by the success of World Science. At the times we call it the World Conference, not yet Forum. So that's the new commitment held in 1999 in Budapest. So at that time, the Hungarian Academy of Science, together with the United Nations Education, Science, and Scientific and Cultural Organizations, or we call it UNESCO, including International Science Council and the American Associations for the Advancement of the Science. At that time, in 1999, they organized the event, World Conference on Science for the 21st Century, a new commitment. This event will be organized biannually. So it's starting since 2003. It becomes a very important event. And then by the times of the 2020, around 2021 to 2024, it becomes the World Science Forums. So basically, it is difficult, Pak Jo, to share.
Yes, now Ibu Linia from the Asia Europe Foundation, Ibu, will be the one that present.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Give me just 1 second as I'm bringing up the document for us to share.
Yes, I have already sent the PDF one.
Yes.
Hopefully you receive already.
Yes.
So the World Science Forum itself aims to provide the forum for dialogue among the scientific community, of course, the public, industry, and then governments. So basically, all the stakeholders become voices at that event. So everybody can speak about what they have in mind and then what is exactly important to be addressed. And by the end of the event, there will be hello. I think I lost.
We can hear you, Ibu. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, because everything's white in here. So, yeah. So at the end of the event or World Science Forum itself, we reach the outcome of the World Science Forums. The outcome is a declarations. So what is exactly the declaration itself? It is like a recommendations to the scientific participant or stakeholders in order to serve as a global scientist interest, and then also wants to give suggestions and then solutions for the issues, global issues, basically. So in the 2024, Indonesia officially submitted its candidacy to host the World Science Forum in 2026. So next year, yeah, that's good. Thank you very much, Ibu, and then Pak Jo, and then Dr. Joe. Can you please move forward? I have just only 3 slides. Okay, here, yeah, right. That's right. So here, Indonesia's officially selected as the host of the World Science Forums 2026. It is decided in the 11th World Science Forums at that times held in Budapest, 20 to 23 November 2024. The steering committee of World Science Forum officially selected Indonesia to host the World Science Forum 2026, taking the forums for the first time to Indonesia and the Eastern Hemisphere. So it is very important moment for us, for Indonesia, as well as for Asia and Eastern part of Hemisphere. In these occasions, I put a picture on the side, on the right side. So this is the pictures of the time when the steering committee of the World Science Forum officially selected Indonesia. It's a very amazing moment at that time. And then down on the right down here, I put these figures because it shows how important this event, because this event shows here, it is mentions the event is in the parliament at that time in Budapest. So all the informations will be circulated among them, and then also they will decide who will be the next. So for the 2026 event, World Science Forum next year, there at the end there will be also select the country to become the host for the next World Science Forums. So this is kind of very amazing forum for the scientists to increase attentions of the global issues and also to become solutions for the next research and innovations that we want to do. Next is here. this is our plan for the World Science Forum 2026. The event is 12 World Science Forums. We remember at the previous ones, that's the 11th World Science Forums in Budapest, but and 2024, and then in here is the 12th World Science Forum next year. And then at that time, BRIN has already elaborate the themes of the World Science Forum that will be conducted in 2026. So the theme is Science for Global Resilience and Equity. And then we proposed the tentative times in November. It's around 10 to 13th of November 2026. And then we will do these events in Jakarta. Hopefully the venue, the main events of the venue will be in the headquarters of BRIN, Tamrin, BJ Habibie building. And then the side event, not only BRIN's Tamrin, but also other office of BRIN, and then also other potential venue for the Jakarta. Next, here is what we want to make a new importance dialogue. We create a program for World Science Forum 2026. So basically what we want to design is like this. We have a national agenda that also become a global concerns. So based on that, we have a national agenda. We classified by the themes of the global resilience and equity. We can maintain the two important plenary sessions in here, considers as the resilience and equity. So, for example, in here, in the global concerns about resilience in food, energy, water, and economy, we create the plenary sessions of science, technology, and innovations for climate change mitigations and adaptations to improve global resilience, while the thematic sessions will be elaborated among food, agriculture, biodiversity, energy, and waters. So when we talk about where is exactly the diplomacy or science diplomacy in here, we arrange this thematic starting from the plenary to thematic and then ministerial roundtables one by one, and until at the end we come up with the thematic and then ministerial roundtables at the end to the right hand side. So basically what we want to know about the program in World Science Forums is divided into two main topics with the themes at that times, which is like resilience and equity. In terms of resilience itself, number one, I have already elaborated. And then the second one is about the advancing science, technology, and innovations in disaster risk reductions. This is also, we need like a resilience that can be achieved, not just only one country could achieve, but also need collaborations among countries. Of course, it is like a global concern. And then this plenary session will become elaborated in thematic sessions about the global SDI action in disaster risk reductions. And then the second one is about the literacy and culture in disaster risk reductions. And then the third one about the social culture resilience in civilization's history. And still advancing science technology in advancing in disaster risk reductions, we will also communicate with science technology innovations how this important risk reduction also needs to overcome with the economic recovery. So that's why in the plenary session 3, we come up with the idea about the topics about the science, technology, and innovations to lead economic recovery. So for the
Ibu Deputy, sorry to take
sorry.
your time. Perhaps if there's another 3 minutes, Ibu, pardon.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another 3 minutes. This is the last slide from me. So basically, what we want to address relates to the diplomatic science diplomacy. We want to have the equity in here. What is equity in here? Equity in science, across generation science perspective. In the thematic session, I give notes in here. There are 3 thematic sessions: the science of health for all, empowering human resource. So basically, the equity in here is about equity, how the people could have the same access, improving access of health for all. Another one is about the empowering human resources in research and innovations, especially in the rural areas. And then the digital diplomacy based on research and innovations. So transformations for all. And at the end, after all the thematic sessions, we will have the ministerial roundtables, and it's mentioned in here, ministerial level, policy and global actions on science and digital diplomacy in creating equity. So because of the importance of the science diplomacy, we put this topic as one important topic in the ministerial roundtable. So our Pak Jo, Dr. Jo, I think this is the presentation that I have already done. So basically what we want to mention in here, thank you to ASEF, and then hopefully for this road to WSF 2026, we could achieve the discussions about the digital diplomacy in creating equity. Thank you very much, Dr. Jo, and then all panelists, and then also participants that have already connected to this, excuse me, cancel. Okay. Thank you very much. Because of the time limits, I have already greetings to all, and then hopefully we can discuss later. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ibu Deputy Asti. Now, as we already highlighted some of the new facts from the upcoming World Science Forum, perhaps it is timely also that we listen to the voice from the Ministry of Higher Education. So I'd like to welcome Pak Dedi Saputra before Pak Dudi, Pak Dudi, and then later on with Pak Dudi again representing the National Research Innovation Agency. Pak Dedi Saputra, the time is yours, and if possible, only 5 minutes, Bapak, so there will be ample time for discussion afterwards. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jet. Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to present strategic perspective on the role of government in advancing of the science and technology diplomacy ecosystem. But first of all, I would like to have disclaimer because my position as policy analyst, all my material that I am presenting in this occasion is subjectively on my perspective as policy analyst in the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology. So, because the time is only 5 minutes, actually I already prepared the presentation, Dr. Jet, so I try to make it in 5 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, historically, if we heard about Dr. Marty talking about science diplomacy, actually our country has engaged in science technology and science diplomacy since early days of our independence. In the late 50s and 90s, we already sent our students and scholars abroad, not just to gain knowledge, but also to represent Indonesia in the intellectual scientific arena of the world. So because it's only 5 minutes, so in 2024, Indonesia enter new chapters. In his national address, our President Prabowo Subianto stated clearly about that science and technology are not just tools for development for development, but they are instrument of our sovereignty. So this statement is more than rhetoric, actually. It is a strategic directive. It redefines the role of science and technology in Indonesia's statecraft, placing them at the heart of our national security, independence, and global influence. Next. Go next. So, okay, based on his vision, the STI policy framework envisioned by President Prabowo is emphasized on technological sovereignty, food energy security, strategic industry such as defense, health, agriculture, and also strengthening human capital and focus on education. Last not but least, that we have to keep always in mind that the role of STI for achieving Indonesian Emas or Golden Indonesia 2045. Dr. Jet, I just want to make sure is my presentations running out?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
How about my presentation? Is this going to another slide?
Crystal clear, Bapak.
Okay, thank you.
Crystal clear. Please
Okay,
proceed.
I will continue for the next slide. Okay, therefore, the establishment of Ministry Higher Education and Science Technology, or we call it Kemdikti reflects Indonesia's commitment to strengthening its science and technology ecosystem, both as a foundation for domestic progress and a lever of global influence. Kemdikti Saintek fully adopt this vision regarding President Prabowo Subianto and its signal to shift in how SNT are positioned in Indonesia's strategic priority, not just as economic drivers, but as pillar national sovereignty. So this vision is being translated by Kemdikti Saintek into concrete program and strategic tentative, including, in this case, we like to have two. First, national research alignment with strategic sectors that Kemdikti Saintek will support national sovereignty by prioritizing research in food security, defense technology, energy, independence, and digital sovereignty. And also working with BRIN and national university to align research output with national strategic interests. Lastly, establishing thematic R&D cluster tied to sovereign needs such as cybersecurity, AI ethics, rare earth processing, like Dr. Mati said, and as well as vaccine independence. Second, science technology diplomacy as sovereignty projection. In here, Kemdikti Saintek's role, we will utilize Kemdikti Saintek's role in STI diplomacy to secure equal, non-exploitative partnership, and also advocating for technology transfer and inclusive innovation in global science forum. For example, BRICS, ASEAN, and also with Europe. And lastly, is establishing science attaché and bilateral R&D platform to shape global norms and protect Indonesian technology sovereignty. I was difficult. Okay, I will skip this one. Ladies and gentlemen, internally, we also accelerating institutional readiness by integrating policy, building capacity in university, and aligning national priority with global science agenda. This includes the Sustainable Development Goal or SDGs, BRICS XTI frameworks, and international research platform, as well as science diplomacy is now embedded within national STI governance.
Pak Dedi, pardon, but you have 1 more minute to go.
Okay.
Sorry for that.
Okay.
Enable more discussion.
Yes. So Cambridge Science Tech actively lead and support bilateral and multilateral SD partnerships, such as within Horizon Europe, BRICS, and UNESCO. We work closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also with BRIN to embed science into foreign policy, deploy science attaché, and develop joint position in global forum, ensuring our national interests are well represented and protected. So in short, maybe to closing this, Dr. Zhou, in short, for us at Cambridge Science Tech, SNT diplomacy is how we operationalize the president's vision on the global stage, turning knowledge into leverage and collaboration into sovereignty. And we envision a future where Indonesia is not only a participant, but a tough leader in the international STI ecosystem. So let us continue building partnerships that are equal, innovation that is inclusive, and diplomacy that is grounded in knowledge, trust, and national interest. So I hope this is 5 minutes for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Dedi. We have given more, actually, more than 5 minutes. Miss
Thank you.
Lina has given me the hint. Now, without further ado, let me welcome Bapak Dudi Hidayat, my dear colleague in the National Research Innovation Agency, to deliver his presentation. Bapak, you are welcome to present your own PowerPoint. And 5 minutes. Thank you.
Dr. Hidayat, you need to still unmute yourself for the presentation.
Pak Dudi, you have to unmute yourself. Is it?
Oh,
yes.
sorry.
Now we
Sorry.
can listen to your voice. Thank you.
So, thank you, Dr. Joe, and distinguished speaker, Bu Asti and Pak Dedi. Please allow me to present representing our deputy, Pak Anugrah, who cannot attend this discussion, about the role of the DKP, our Deputy for Development Planning, in Indonesia's science and technology diplomacy ecosystem. So I would like to start with the structure of BRIN, just to spot our position. Deputy for Development Policy is one of the 7 deputies under the chairman. And beside the development policy, you have also Deputy for Research and Innovation Policy, who is Bu Asti. And this deputyship consists of 4 directorates: Directorate for Human Population and Cultural Development, and then Directorate for Political, Legal, Defense, and Security Policy, that is mine, and then Directorate for Economic, Employment, and Regional Development, and the last directorate is for Environment, Maritime, Natural Resources, and Nuclear Policy. And I would say that most of the science diplomacy will be the responsibility of Directorate 4, actually. Now, if you are talking about science diplomacy, I recognize 3 dimensions of science diplomacy. First is science for diplomacy. This is the case where scientific cooperation acts as a bridge to its political tension. And the diplomacy for science, this is the attempt of government to negotiate arrangement, agreement, treaties, or partnership to develop and enhance their science and technology base. And also science in diplomacy. Scientific evidence inform diplomatic decisions, such as climate agreement, public health policies in WHO, and also nuclear non-proliferation efforts. So in this case, experts provide data to shape negotiation on issues like biodiversity loss or pandemic response. I would say that our deputyship more responsible on the third kind of science diplomacy, and also might be part of the second, while Deputy Bu Asti more responsible for the first and the second. For example, diplomacy for science, WSF next year is the responsibility of Bu Asti. So if you look at the scope of our deputyship, I would identify this scope of activities belong to the international science diplomacy. So we coordinate Indonesia's participant in international forums, coordinating participation of delegation international forum like COP, UNFCCC, COP BRS, and EIA, also atomic energy, and various international fora. And we have also a number of representative in focal point like INUA, INASA. INUA means Indonesian Nuclear Agency, and INASA Indonesian Aerospace Agency, where we sent a delegation in various fora for space or nuclear. Our deputy is responsible touring for that. And we have also other international cooperation with regard to science use in various projects. Yeah. Now, actually, as Dr. Marty said, that everything begins at home, actually. So I think the BRIN strategic approach to strengthen science diplomacy is by we try to foster science and technology policy for policy development, and we also strengthen the role of science and technology in foreign cooperation, and we strengthen our national research and innovation ecosystem to support science diplomacy. And we create and connect science diplomacy network through various platforms. And also we endeavor to capacity building for Indonesia science professional, including indeed its researchers and also science technology supporting staff. And at the end, we need to strengthen our national research and innovation infrastructures. So all start at home. We have to strengthen our national research and innovation system. Now, this is just to indicate to you about the involvement of our deputyship in various organizations, like the group of G20 space economy leaders, developing aid, also under G20, and also the Brazil, Russia, or BRICS outer space. And then also in the accession of Indonesia to OECD, we are responsible for Nuclear Energy Committee. We have also involvement in the UNESCO, various body of UNESCO, MOS, MAB, IOC, and then ZC, Open Science UNESCO. We have also involved in that, and various other organizations you can see here. And also I should mention maybe EPIC, PPSTI. We have also responsibility in preparing all the need for the delegates. So basically in our deputyship, we are involved in various fora, international science fora. Yeah. Now, just to indicate what kind of activities in science diplomacy, I saw you two major activities just recently. He's our deputy in the opening of the occasion of the building space ecosystem in ASEAN. And the second project is about the new tech plastic. We are developing nuclear technology to recycle plastic. We are one of the 4 countries as a pilot by EIA. The pilot countries are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, and Thailand. So through this project, Indonesia support other countries in the region for research collaboration and capacity building. And also, so far, the implementation shows that Indonesian government commitment in playing active role and leadership in addressing global environmental issues. I think that's my presentation for our role in developing science diplomacy ecosystem in Indonesia. Thank you. Back to you, Dr. Joe.
Pak Dudi, thank you very much. And that's very ample 5 minutes. Now, before I welcome the discussion, and I know many have pressing questions, I do have a very brief, just a bit of summary of points. So let me share my summary of points. Miss Linia, I hope it's clear.
Yes,
Is
we
it
can
clear?
see it.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I think all speakers from Ibu Budi Astuti, Pak Dedi, and Pak Dudi, as well as our previous distinguished keynote speaker, Dr. Martin Natalegawa, and including our chairman, has stated that this is a meaningful event. Why? Because it is the first that mark Indonesia's leadership in World Science Forum, and perhaps the first among the ASEAN region, Southeast Asia. So it's going to be big, but is it really only the size that we are aiming? Of course, we want more than that. So road to WSF has to be meaningful. First, we saw that the keynote speaker, Dr. Nata Legawa, highlighted about the nexus between science and diplomacy, under brackets, in a fragmented world. We all are living in a so-called fragmented world. The 21st century, there has never been a world war in the 21st century. But we who live and experience the 20th century, we understood there were two world wars. So of course, neither of us wanting another world war. And how could science contribute in that? I think the essence of Dr. Nata Legawa and the very words that science contributes, science unites rather than divides or making war. And thank you also for Dr. Muhammad Hadian, who has provided the paper, the briefing paper from Asia Europe Foundation. I found the paper very useful for me to navigate as the moderator among these illustrious panels. First of all, we have the science for diplomacy, we have the first level, the first layer is science in diplomacy. That's diplomacy for science. From Indonesian students, expert diaspora, we know now many increasing number of diaspora working in science, even working in Silicon Valley, not only in the United States, but even in India and Singapore. And then the second layer, the one that we are aiming, is diplomacy for science, which is more collaboration to enhance the usage of science and increase Indonesia's soft diplomacy. Because why do we have to use more hard diplomacy when in fact our soft diplomacy has been our potent weapon? And then, of course, the further aim, the final aim, is the science for diplomacy, which is the final projection. Using the established scientific networks, and this is where networks are important to my fellow scientists. You cannot only work within your cubicles, within your table, regardless of how smart you are or how innovative your invention. Without a network, you are nothing in the world of leading scientists, because network can break barriers. And that's what you are doing as scientists. You break barriers, not through war, not through weapon, but through your inventions. Lastly, let me also refer to our president's mandate for foreign policy. We know that there are two principles for foreign policy, independent and active, and it has been there since the statement of Dr. Muhammad Hatta as our first vice president. He was the first that coined independent and active, bebas aktif foreign policy. President Prabowo has stated 1,000 friends too few, one enemy too many. And I think it has been the cornerstone of Indonesian foreign policy since the presidency of Prabowo and Foreign Minister Sugiono. Now, if we connect with National Research and Innovation Agency, we are proud to see also that within only 4 years, now people say generally a child from a baby to 4-year-olds, you still call them a toddler within 4 years or 5 years old. But within 4 years old, National Research and Innovation Agency has evolved, becoming an agency that is involved in every research and innovation field. And what is the aim? To make an ecosystem that works not only for the researcher, not only for the scientist, but for whom then? For the private sectors, so that we know it works for everyone. And I think there are two keywords from Chairman's statement this afternoon. He states that science has to transcend borders. In short, it has to be borderless. It's the same thing, I think, with World Science Forum. Now, emanating from a business matchmaking that I have been fortunate to coordinate only last month in April, we gathered 30 most influential ambassadors as well as policymakers from 30 countries, as well as from NGOs, in which they were able to voice their concerns in this fragmented world, what do they need? And we are working together with the Ministry of Defense. Why? Because we want to make sure that defense is working together with research innovation, that defense is founded through sound and legal, lawful research and innovation. So it cannot work separately, but it works hand in hand, as Ibu Budi Astuti also stated earlier. Now with that, sorry for taking your time, but with that, now I'm opening the floor for our participants, offline as well as online, to deliver their questions to our illustrious speakers.
Yes, so I can see that we have a couple of questions still in the chat that were perhaps specifically directed to Dr. Natalegawa earlier, but perhaps we can also take this opportunity to address them to the panelists. So Dr. Jet, if you could help by picking out some questions in the Q&A and addressing them to the panelists in this case.
Thank you, Ms. Linia. There are some questions, but I'm just going to choose the one very relevant. For instance, perhaps we could also re-question the one that is stated by Soklip Kaur, that if you could recommend one key policy change or new initiative, just one, to significantly enhance Indonesia's science and technology diplomacy, what would it be and why? Can we begin with, now we begin through gentlemen first. Pak Dudi, because you were the last speaker, now I hand the first question to you.
Okay.
Ibu Asti will be the last one to answer.
Okay.
Pak Dudi.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ju. I couldn't agree more with Dr. Martin Natalegawa that the most important thing to be done by Indonesia with regard to science diplomacy is start at home. We have to consolidate internally. So I couldn't think of another important step to be taken by Indonesia in order to strengthen our science diplomacy, as we have to consolidate internally. All science and technology actors, all science and technology activities within Indonesia should be consolidated, and so it should become strong. In my presentation, I say that building national innovation system is our major task, our homework, to strengthen our national innovation system, our national research infrastructure. And that is exactly what BRIN is doing at the moment. Maybe it will take some time to give the result, but we are in the right direction in terms of strengthening national innovation system, national infrastructures, and we are also consolidating the science and technology funding within Indonesia. Once we have a strong science and technology, then we can aim at strong position in science diplomacy in the world internationally. So I couldn't agree more with Dr. Martin Natalegawa, and I think that's the most important thing that should be done by Indonesia at the moment. Thank you, Dr. Zed.
Thank you, Pak Dudi. Now I'm going to change or amend a little bit of the question to Pak Dedi. Pak Dedi, in your presentation, you highlight many new initiatives. But again, I think you found it on the collaboration between the new ministry, the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology, with other ministry, including the National Research and Innovation Agency, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the origin of ministry where I come from. Now, may I know what's the main target of collaboration between the Ministry of Higher Education, Science and Technology with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, whether it will emanate into a concept of, you mentioned about science attaché, because we know that at the moment, what we have is the education and cultural attaché, because in the previous cabinet, we had only one ministry, namely Ministry of Education and Culture. And so they had the privilege to send attaché on education and culture. The National Research and Innovation Agency is also endowed with one attaché, the attaché on research and innovation. She is based in the Embassy of Indonesia for IAEA in Vienna, Austria. Now, I'd like to know more about that concept of science attaché. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Darjat, for the question. This is very tricky, but in my presentation is already clear. But I developed this concept based on the President Prabowo intention, how to we are in the future to sovereign our SNT sovereignty. So it's mean like Pak Dudi said, is have to start with us. You want to play key player as in science diplomacy, as not only in ASEAN but in the global context. So we have to prepare. We have to make it our Scientology strong. We have to sovereign with our SNT, and then we continue with our existence in this way. The strategic goal that I mentioned in my presentation is actually positioning Indonesia as a proactive and trusted global SDI actors. So it means that integrated science diplomacy into national development and foreign policy. That's why if I my present in my presentation maybe on slide number 8, I'm sorry because this is some problem when I do some presentation, but it is clearly mentioned that we have I propose the two strategic pillars. Number one is policy integration and coherence. It means that we don't have a national science diplomacy framework in our RPJMN. So this is one case that we between Candidate Scientech, BRIN, as well the Foreign Affairs have to sit together to formulate our future framework in science diplomacy. So because it should be mentioned in our RPJMN, this is a good start because it will 2025 until 2045. So we have to declare our. And then number two is strategically global platform and representation. That's why we have to engage. Now we already currently as a member of BRIC STI. Can BRIC Scientech and BRIN hand in hand? We are what is it? National coordinator led by BRIN, of course. And then we don't choose one particular single entity that represent Indonesia. There would be BRIN and Candidate Scientech. This is for good. So we have some vision in encoding regarding STI activities in BRICS. So we have can establish our existing condition with the other member of BRICS. I think I hope that answered the question, Dr. Jet.
Thank you, Pak Dedi. It's very helpful. And I see that from that standpoint, I think the more intense that we could do is a deep, full collaboration between your ministry, between BRIN, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Because when we talk about diplomacy is the focal point of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But when we talk about science, that's when National Research and Innovation Agency, as well as your ministry, could play essential role. So collaboration is the key. Thank you very much for that. Now, last but certainly not least, we have our very own Ibu Deputy Asti. Ibu, you are the chair of the steering committee for Indonesia as we are preparing our way to host the World Science Forum 2026. May I know your hope, your aspiration, your vision for the World Science Forum 2026?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's very challenging questions, and it is very important. What am I aim for this? We want to have the World Science Forum as a forum for us, for scientists, for public, and for the government. So in this mean that what we want to achieve that if we are right now proposing the programs, we facing like the issues, we want to have the policy around the world, what is the best suit according to the prerequisite conditions, and what is exactly the modalities or the mechanisms or the technique or the implementations best practice from that from the global countries. That's the idea of we want to have from the World Science Forums. And the second one, what we want to achieve that Indonesia have a lot of expertise, and also a lot of experience as well. We want to show what Indonesia have, to show the world, to show the global scientists that Indonesia has something to collaborate. So between that, we want to have the theme of the global, resilience and equity to become the real policy and implementable actions for Indonesia, and it can be also improve the quality of research and innovations in our region as well as in global. So that's what I want to achieve.
Well
And
done. Well done, Ibu.
because of that, the science diplomacy is very important because diplomacy is the way we convey the message. We
Thank you very
convey
much,
the
Ibu.
idea. Hopefully, we can join together and then we can finalize this road to WSF with another workshop or another talk show, Pak Jo, in order
Yes.
to achieve all the milestones we want to get into the World Science Forum 2026. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think before I hand this session, which is already a bit too late, to Ms. Linia, let me close by highlighting that the three illustrious speakers underline that the World Science Forum 2026 will be open for everyone. It is not an exclusive forum. It is not a forum only for the scientists, only for the diplomats, only for the government officers, but it encompasses all elements, all components in a society. And in today's society, we also acknowledge the important role of young leaders. They have to be heard because the world will be theirs one day, and they will be the policymakers, they will be the future scientists, they will be our future presidents and leaders, and therefore they have to be given a chance, as Dr. Natalegawa stated. Now, without also restating, I'd like also to highlight the three keywords that stated by our chairman, Dr. Handoko, this morning, that his hope is that the science diplomacy ecosystem will be inclusive, collaborative, and sustainable. Inclusive for everyone, collaborative, everyone's working hand in hand, and of course, sustainable, not just one season, not just 1 year, but throughout the decades. Now, with that, I end my session. I thank you very much for giving me a chance. Today is also very important to me. It marks my 7th month in National Research and Innovation Agency. It has been a thriving journey. I learned a lot from Mr. Chairman, from Madam Deputy, as well as from fellow directors. I thank you, Ms. Linia. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jet. And it's great to hear those finalizing words, concluding and summarizing these discussions that we've had over the past 2 hours. On behalf of the Asia Europe Foundation, allow me to thank you, Dr. Jet, and our esteemed panelists here today for your contributions and for setting up the stage for the World Science Forum to come next year. We're particularly interested and looking forward to bringing, as Dr. Jet mentioned, the young leaders to come to share with them what the future may hold as they start to engage in science diplomacy on an international playing field. So thank you very much for your contributions here today, to BRIN for partnering with us on this workshop series, and allow me to, at this point, do some final closing remarks as we wrap up this session and look ahead for the 2 weeks to come. So thank you again to our panelists, to Dr. Jet for facilitating this discussion, and thank you for your time. With some closing remarks, and again, thank you also to Dr. Natalegawa for his keynote presentation, for our welcome remarks as well. Allow me to look ahead, and thank you also to our attendees for joining us, and hope to see you again next week. If you only signed up for this here webinar today on the role of government, strategy and actions in the science and technology diplomacy ecosystem in Indonesia, please do scan the QR code here on your screen or visit our website to also sign up for the 2 coming workshops on the role of research institutions and academia, as well as business and the private sector in this very diverse and complex ecosystem. You can also look ahead for the coming weeks. In the month of July, we'll be also conducting workshop series on Thailand. So exploring here again the science and technology and innovation diplomacy ecosystem in Thailand. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can sign up using the link. As Dr. Jet mentioned, we also published as of earlier this year a report on the Asia-Europe science and technology diplomacy strategies, tools, and initiatives in our 51 member countries, so spanning across Asia and Europe. If you're interested in learning more about what other countries are doing and similarities across the 2 regions, you can scan the QR code here for the full report with the individual country reports to come as well. Again, thank you for joining us here today. Thank you to our speakers, to Dr. Jed for facilitating, to our welcome remarks as well. I hope that you found this session as interesting as I did, and we look forward to welcoming you here again, same time in 2 weeks, so on the 15th. Yes, on the 15th of July to explore the role of research institutions and academia. So thank you again. I wish you all a good rest of your day, those of you joining us from Europe, and a good rest of your evening if you're joining us from Asia.